feel, because of who your character is, was your research that much more difficult to do, knowing the outcome?
Well, I don't know about how the other lads went about their research, but certainly with me, I didn't want to miss a beat. I read as much as I could. I read everybody else's and listened to everyone else's transcripts, the actual soldiers that were there on the day as well. Meeting Bob and Jem, Mark's parents, was invaluable. They just opened their doors, were so welcoming, and just told me everything they could about him as a boy, about when he was 6 years old, how he said he wanted to join the army and wanted to be like his uncle, and just knowing about how lovely a little kid that he was, who grew into this, the same, what every soldier said as well, he was just the nicest guy, that no one had a bad word to say about this guy, and you kind of trying to prod, going, someone give me something, he had to have some kryptonite, and that was what they said. They said perhaps that's the only thing that we can critique is saying that there was nothing bad, so that's kind of boring in itself, that we can't say anything bad about him. They're saying it's not because Mark's no longer with us that he's suddenly been made a legend. He was a legend way before this, you know, and then that just set the weight on my shoulders, you know. That was when I started to have a wobble and panic, because I'd been confident up until that point, but the more and more information I was taking on and learning who this guy was, I was going, how can I do this? How can I do this role? But as soon as one of the guys said that he recognised something in me, and some of the other people involved, the military advisors, who were just like, one of them came up to me at one point and said, I know you're in character, you've been in character all the way through boot camp, and I was going, no, what the hell's going on? And at that point I thought, they're seeing something, a resemblance, something in me from Mark, and the fact that they saw anything of Mark in me, I took as a massive reboost of confidence, and yeah, that sent me sailing into shooting. As soon as we got there, I was just on, but I was like, right, we have to just go for this, guys, you know.
And you used your characters' names all the way through the shoots.
Yeah, which is even still now, we're still seeing some of the guys like Smudge. I mean, a lot of the boys I met up with before we even got to boot camp or read-throughs. I'd actually be in touch with some of them because I wanted to straight away try and get little bonds and friendships with certain members of the cast who I knew that Mark would have known and things, just to go, let's go and play five-a-side football with each other before anything's even started, while we were all going through training and stuff at that time. And so I knew them as their names then, but as soon as we hit boot camp, no one was using their own names anymore, and it was kind of drilled into us. That's exactly how it was going to be. You are Mark now. You are Tug Hartley. You are like Stu Pearson. And now that like most of the guys were like really trying to pinch yourself and shake out of it, because I jumped out of I did a skydive with the real Stu Pearson and Scott Cow, who plays Stu Pearson, and we did that for BLESMA, for the British Limbless Ex-Servicemen, and I'm stood there saying, so Stu was telling me, I'm going, sorry, you're Stu. Scott was telling me, so it starts getting really confusing when you're in the room, so we're really trying to like give ourselves a hard time any time that we're calling people by character names now, but it's still hard to shake. Smudge is always going to be Smudge to me, Prosser's always going to be Prosser. The only person that we're starting to get all right with is Mark Stanley, because I mean, people were saying Mark early on, he was turning around and I was turning around too, so that was the first one we had to sort out, really. Yeah.
And you go from 2 days in a farm outside Colchester to the... You go from 2 days in a farm outside Colchester to the desert in Jordan. How was that?
Not a lot of difference. It was really warm in Colchester. No, it was like 55 degrees a lot of days out there, and just you really couldn't complain about the heat when you know that these guys were there for hours and hours and hours, and they didn't have somebody coming across with like factor 50, giving them a little spray and being like, oh, I'm pampering you, bringing you water. They didn't have that. These guys were there in this hellhole, like blown to bits, and just knowing they're going to die under this heat. The last thing we could do was complain much about that, but it was a character in itself in the movie. I mean, I remember early on one of the guys coming up to me and saying, I'm not acting, I'm just hot, I'm sweaty, I'm uncomfortable, I'm just angry at it, and we're like going, that's it, mate, you can't pay for that. He was just feeling it, you know, and you're going, we're not having to act. We were so much put into the circumstances that it felt alien to us that you weren't having to try and force something out, because it was all there, all the elements were there for us, and we just had to surrender to that.
And I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It's almost as though there's very little acting in some ways going on.
Yeah.
You're in the circumstance, and for me, watching the film, it was almost like being in the circumstance with the guys. Was that how it was on set, apart from the camera crews and lights?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you kind of never knew where someone's character ended and they began. It was certainly that all the way through. I mean, we kind of just lived it. There wasn't many people who I think approached it thinking I'm going to mould myself into that character, and no one made any great Daniel Day-Lewis leaps. We were all cast for a reason. You know, Paul did a fantastic job casting the people that he did, because everyone has an essence already of who they were playing. So no one's out there trying to be something. They were who they were, and that allowed us to kind of just be ourselves, living that through. So there will be certain moments where some of the soldiers themselves will go, I didn't do that in that moment, I definitely didn't cry there, and that's just, we just know that we've already had words with them and said, listen guys, this is how it was in the day, this might have happened there, someone might have given that person the shot instead. You're talking so many different versions of the story we're given to make this one story, as everyone's true account of the events are put in there. And then you've got to take us to making a movie out there and making that logistically work. Sometimes you'll be feeling something that they might not have felt at the time, but we just had to go with it.
Thank you so much for your time. It's utterly brilliant.
Thank you, man. All the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey!